Hi everybody, thank you for joining me. So in my last video I did a World Cup of early Beatles solo albums. I took the first 4 solo albums from John, Paul, George and Ringo. I mixed them up completely and did a random knockout style draw. I then picked at random from a category of what I was going to rank them on, and that turned out to be overall enjoyment. Not best, but the one that I enjoy most at the end of listening to the album. And I got a lot of great feedback from that, thank you very much, but I think I upset a few people. I'm not sure that some people quite grasped that I wasn't doing the best album, I was doing which one I enjoy more, and I think there is a distinction there. And some people certainly didn't like that Sometime in New York City got to the semi-final. I'm not suggesting for one moment that that's one of the top 4 early Beatles solo albums, because it clearly isn't, but, you know, the look of the draw, that's how it managed to pan out. So one of the interesting suggestions that I got was based on the fact that I did overall enjoyment all the way through, and why didn't I pick a different category for each round? Well, I made exactly the video that I wanted to make there, but I thought that was a good idea, so that is exactly what I'm going to do now. We're going to do the same 16 albums, but each round will be based on a different set of criteria, either overall enjoyment, fun, epicness, or songwriting. So in a moment I'm going to draw the 16 albums out and see what order we are going to judge this competition on. But if you've got any more suggestions for variations of this, where it might be different types of albums or different ways of scoring it, let me know, because I think I'd like to do more of these videos. I certainly enjoyed the last one. So anyway, let's crack on with the draw. So I've got here Ringo and George's albums. That's the first 4 of each. I've got the first 4 Paul and John albums here. I'm going to mix these up first of all. That's half of them done. Let's do the other half and then we can throw them together afterwards. Okay, now I'm going to combine the two. Okay, so that's all 16 albums now in a completely random order. I'm going to see what order they're in, and we're going to pull out the draw for this competition, and then we'll have a look at what order we're going to base the competition on. So first of all, our first matchup is Ringo versus McCartney. Then it's All Things Must Pass versus Beaucoup of Blues. Sentimental Journey will play Wildlife. Imagine plays Plastic Ono Band in the first round. One of them's got to go. Dark Horse will play Living in the Material World. It's an all George clash. Red Rose Speedway will play Ram, an all Paul clash. Mind Games plays against Goodnight Vienna, and the last clash in the first round is Extra Texture versus Sometime in New York City. So I will now draw what the order of the competition is going to be. So that first round is going to be, let's pick one of these at random. First round is going to be based on songwriting. That is what I will be ranking the first round on. When we get to the quarterfinals, we will be basing it on the category from last time, overall enjoyment. That will be the quarterfinal. The semi-final will be fun. Which album do I find to be the most fun? And that means that whatever gets through that random lot into the final, we'll be basing it on epicness. I think that's quite appropriate. The most epic album that gets to the final is going to be the winner. Okay, here goes with the first round. The first round is, we are judging this on songwriting. So it's all look at the draw as to what comes out, as you saw. So we have up, first of all, Ringo versus McCartney. This is an interesting one, because Ringo obviously has got songs by Paul, George, John. I think Ringo writes some songs, or certainly co-writes songs on here. Yeah, and has songs of his own on here. So this is very interesting for songwriting, based on the fact that it's all 4 Beatles. McCartney, well, the fact that it's got Maybe I'm Amazed on there, which I often say I think is his best ever song. That Would Be Something, and Every Night are great songs on there. For songwriting, this is a tricky one, because I think this one's about the mood and the feel and the homeliness of it. This one, songs like Photograph and 6 O'Clock and Sunshine Life, You're 16, You're Beautiful. There's some really sort of classic songs on there, whereas there's really there's one absolute classic and a few greats on here. This is about mood, and I certainly love this album far more than this, but for songwriting, I cannot believe I'm saying this, but McCartney, one of my most beloved albums, is getting knocked out in the first round by Ringo. Well, already the cat is amongst the pigeons here, ladies and gentlemen. I was not expecting McCartney to go first round. Next up, All Things Must Pass got knocked out in the first round last time, which is crazy, but that was how the draw came out. All Things Must Pass versus Bokusa Blues. For songwriting, we are judging this on. I don't think this is a contest at all. All Things Must Pass is, it's George's, it's his masterpiece. It's those songs that he built up during the time of the Beatles. My Sweet Lord, What Is Life, Wah Wah, Run of the Mill, Apple Scruffs, and many, many more. Hear Me Lord, for example. These are great songs. Bokusa Blues is a nice album, but it ain't in the same league as All Things Must Pass. So George, who failed to get a song into the quarter-final in my last competition, sails through with All Things Must Pass. Sentimental Journey versus Wildlife. Well, where do you start with this? I mean, in theory, there's a lot of classic songs on here and songs written by great songwriters, but they're all cover versions, so I feel kind of loath to give too much credit for the songwriting on here, because anybody can pick great songs. Having new songs that you've written yourself is another matter altogether. So how does that compare, the fact that we've got a load of classic songs on here but cover versions that anybody could have picked? On here, I think, obviously Love Is Strange is a cover version as well, so that probably cancels it out. Wildlife, I think, is a good song. Some People Never Know is a beautifully written song. Dear Friend is a great song. Paul's, call of friendship to John, Dear Friend. Is It Time? Have we reached the borderline? I think because these are songs written by the person themselves rather than just picking classics, I think I have to go with Wildlife on that. Wildlife goes through to the next round. Wow. What a first round matchup. This could be the final, but it can't be because they've been drawn against each other in the first round. Plastic Ono Band versus Imagine. Where do you start with this? So this is songwriting, remember. That's what we're looking at here. So let's pick out the highlights here. Imagine, Jealous Guy, Oh My Love. How Do You Sleep? Not as easy to listen to, but it is a really good song, well-written song. How, Oh Yoko. You're comparing that to here to Mother, Hold On, I Found Out. Working Class Hero, God. Look at Me. This is so tough because these are John's two best albums, and either one is a worthy winner. But for pure songwriting alone, I think I have to go with Plastic Ono Band, because I think the songs stand up more. There's less production on that album than there is on this, and the songs have to be well written to shine through more. So that is really tough, but I'm going with Plastic Ono Band into the next round on songwriting. Then we've got an old George clash, Dark Horse versus Living in the Material World. And again, do you know what? I think this is no contest. This is absolutely a no-brainer. Living in the Material World is a far better album in terms of songwriting than Dark Horse. I think this ranks just behind All Things Must Pass as a songwriting album for George, and I see no other winner than Living in the Material World. This is interesting with the different categories in the different draw. George failed to get a song past the first round in the last competition due to a combination of factors. He's already got 2 through here, and rightly so. So next up we have Red Rose Speedway versus Ram. our winner from last time in the overall enjoyment video. Sorry, that's a spoiler alert for anybody who was planning on watching that next. But in terms of songwriting, well, let's start with the strengths of Red Rose Speedway. Big Barn Bed is a well-written song. My Love is, of course, an absolute strength for songwriting. Little Lamb Dragonfly, the medley is good. When the Night. So your two big highlights there are My Love and Little Lamb Dragonfly, I think, in terms of songwriting. On here, in terms of songwriting, your highlights would be The Backseat of My Car, Monkberry Moon Delight as a nonsense song. I mean, if it was the fun category, that would be sailing through based on that song. Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey, Dear Boy, Too Many People. This is tough, whereas I think the highs on this are probably a bit higher. I think for songwriting, Ram is probably a bit more consistent. So that wasn't easy. I could have made a case for that, but I think I'm going to have to put Ram into the quarterfinals based on songwriting, and Red Rose Speedway's out. Goodnight Vienna versus Mind Games now for songwriting. So I'm thinking about this on the fly here. I haven't had any time to prepare this. So where do we think for songwriting? So the strengths here would be Mind Games. It would be Asima Sen. Bring on the Lucy Frida People, I think, is a really well-written song. Out of the Blue. I Know is a song that I've come to love a lot more on this album over the last few years since I heard the remix from the early 2000s. Songwriting here, you've got Elton John wrote a song for Ringo on here, and then you've got Goodnight Vienna written by John. That's another good song. Husbands and Wives is good. Snoo Crew. This is a good, well-written pop album. This is a bit more serious, but I don't think it's John's best. And I think I'm probably going to have to put Ringo through here. Goodnight Vienna, based on songwriting, is going through. And I'm not even sure that the best category's been out yet for Goodnight Vienna. In fact, Mind Games is so out, I've just accidentally thrown it on the floor. Wait, it's going to have to stay there. It's going to have to stay there. Next, our last round one matchup is Extra Texture versus Sometime in New York City. Our unlikely semi-finalist from last time. How's it going to fare on songwriting? Well, I mean, I think lyrically it's a good album from John. It's very political. It's quite serious, although, you know, I've already proved I do enjoy this album. I think lyrically it's a good album. Extra Texture, I think George is feeling it. I always prefer Happy George to Sad George, and there's a lot of Sad George on here. But I think a lot of the songs are well written. This Guitar Can't Keep From Crying, Grey Cloudy Lies, His Name Is Legs isn't a great ending, but this is a tricky one for songwriting. I think I'm going to have to put John through because I think he was just feeling it a bit more in terms of saying what he wanted to say. George, I think, had probably had his highlights a couple of albums earlier, although you could say exactly the same about John. You could make a case for either here, but I am putting Sometime in New York City through the first round again. It's got through again. That's the first round. I'm going to now set it up for the quarter-final, which is going to be based on overall enjoyment. So, 4 quarter-final matches. First up, we are looking, remember, at overall enjoyment. When I've finished playing the album, which one do I feel like I've enjoyed more? So we have got Ringo versus All Things Must Pass. I enjoy both of these albums. Ringo, it's an album I'm still getting to know in many ways. And I think it has got some... It's a bit up and down, I think, in places, but the highs are really good. Overall enjoyment, All Things Must Pass. Now, I did a video last year which was my top 10 albums of the 1970s. My number one album in that video was All Things Must Pass. So, you know, I can't deny that I really, really enjoy listening to this album. So, because of how many classics are on it, I think I have to put All Things Must Pass through into the semi-final for overall enjoyment, and Ringo is out. Next of all, overall enjoyment. Plastic Ono Band versus Wildlife. I really enjoy listening to this album. How can you not enjoy listening to this album? Even though it's quite serious. But Mumbo and Bit Bop, I think it's so brave for him to kick off his band that follows the Beatles and to open it up with those two songs. That takes some balls to do that. So I really enjoy this album. Some People Never Know, I think it's a beautiful song. And I love Dear Friend and Wildlife. I enjoy this album a lot. Plastic Ono Band, I enjoy a lot, probably for different reasons, more the appreciation of how great it is. Whereas that, I'm doing it more for the fun reasons, but this ain't the fun category. And I think overall enjoyment, I cannot deny that Plastic Ono Band has to go through here into the semi-final at the expense of Wildlife. So Plastic Ono Band is through. It's a good job of bigging that up, isn't it? It seems as though there's a big box set coming out soon. Stay with me for that, folks, because we're going to be all over that in no time at all. But anyway, I digress. Our next quarter-final is Living in the Material World versus Ram. Now, this is interesting. I think if it had been songwriting, I think I probably would have gone with Material World. This is overall enjoyment, and I think I've kind of already proved on overall enjoyment none of these are going to beat Ram. And I am just going to come off the back of that, having really appreciated it and enjoyed it a lot. I'm going to come off this on a high. I really am. So I have to put Ram through. I'm sorry, George. You're out there and Ram is going through. It's in the semi-final again. And our last quarter-final. Again, I think we're going to have an unlikely semi-finalist here. I wouldn't have predicted these, but the way that the draws come out, one of these is going to be a semi-finalist. So we're looking at overall enjoyment. Now, again, I enjoy both of these albums. But I know fun is a different category, but, you know, it's kind of, there's a link there between fun and overall enjoyment. And this album is a lot more fun than this is, and therefore I enjoy it more. Overall enjoyment being what we're looking at in this case. I think Sometime at New York City is not making it through to the semi-final this time, but only because it's up against an album that I'm currently really, really enjoying for the variety that's on it, the overall sort of pop fun of it. I'm going to have to put Goodnight Vienna into the semi-finals. Okay, let's get that draw ready. So we're into the semi-finals, and our category that we drew is fun. So how much fun do I regard these albums that have made it through? Well, our first semi-final is Plastic Ono Band versus All Things Must Pass. Now, I don't think the first word that you would associate with either of these albums is fun. But let's see what fun we can find in here. I mean, obviously, John's going through a lot of pain here, so there isn't a lot of fun to be found. But hold on, the cookie part. I always find that fun. It scared the life out of me the first time I heard it when I was in my car 30 years ago when I heard the song. Remember is quite fun with the 5th of November ending and the explosion. But other than that, not a lot of fun. All Things Must Pass. Again, not a great deal of fun to be found, obviously, but if you scratch the surface, What Is Life is just such a joyous song, and I've had so much fun with that song over the years. And Apple Scruffs is a good, fun song about that whole Beatles fan kind of scenario. Ballad of Sir Frankie Crisp, I think just sort of listening to a song that's about Friar Park and the goings on there, I find that quite fun. So again, it's, you know, this is not the two albums to be pitting against each other for fun, but overall I think I'm going to have to go with All Things Must Pass. I think it's just got that bit more, and it hasn't quite got the pain that Plastic Ono Band's got in it. So All Things Must Pass is going into the final. But who will it face? It's either going to face Goodnight Vienna or Ram. These are both fun albums. This is a worthy semi-final here. This is the complete opposite to the other one. So, I mean, most things on here are at least some kind of fun, as is a lot of what's on here. And this is really tough. Goodnight Vienna is fun. Acapella is fun. Snookeroo is. All By Myself, not necessarily. And I think it does kind of come down a bit towards the end, does this one? Ram for fun. Well, Three Legs is a fun lyric. Dear Boy, I think it's not a fun topic, but it's fun to listen to because there's so much going on. Uncle Albert Admiral Halsey is a lot of fun. Monkbury Moon Delight is about the most fun you can have, isn't it? I've got to go with Ram. I mean, I don't want this to become a Ram wins everything that it ever enters, but I'm sorry, but that is fun. That is more fun for me. So Ram is making it into the final. Okay, so what was our final category? It was epicness. These two albums have battled their way through songwriting, overall enjoyment and fun to be our finalists. All Things Must Pass and Ram. And now we're looking at epicness. Now, well, what's epic on here? I mean, probably the backseat of my car is quite an epic ending, I think. I don't think Uncle Albert Admiral Halsey is kind of an epic song without ever being epic. Does that make any sense whatsoever, what I just said there? I'm not sure it does. But, you know, it's a bit epic. I think this is more epic, isn't it? How can All Things Must Pass not be more epic than Ram? It's George's masterpiece, My Sweet Lord. Wah Wah, What Is Life, Let It Down, and Hear Me Lord, All Things Must Pass. There's no doubt Ram has finally been beaten here. I'm declaring my winner in my, what should we call this? Should we call this the Medley World Cup, because we've switched it up all the way through. My winner is All Things Must Pass. There you go. That has won the competition. Well, that certainly went in a few different directions to last time. If you've got any ideas of competitions you'd like me to run like this, maybe throwing together different types of albums or songs or using different categories, let me know, and if I like your idea I may well do that. But in the meantime, thank you very much for watching, and congratulations to George Harrison. All Things Must Pass. See you later. Bye bye.